All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Barna's Resilient Pastor Podcast, where we help pastors lead with wisdom, hope, and courage in a changing world. I'm Glenn Packiam, one of the hosts, and this podcast is part of Barna's mission to encourage and equip pastors to be resilient, resilient spiritually, emotionally, and in your leadership too. So today, like always, we're going to explore new research. We're going to have some real conversations, all designed to help you understand the times and to know what to do. Hey, if you're not already doing this, go to Barna.com. Like right now, go to Barna.com. Unless you're driving, then don't do that. And sign up for the free Barna email to access the latest Barna articles, resources, and special discount offers. Rich and Sharon, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving.
Sharon, I just need to know, did you have turkey? And if so, what was your other favorite dish besides the turkey?
I love turkey. Like, I'm a big, I know that's like a hot take. I know some people.
Glenn, are you offended?
Like,
Glenn?
Really?
I don't know. I'm going to let Sharon finish. Sharon's moment.
Go ahead.
Take it, Sharon.
Okay, go ahead.
I wonder if you've just not had turkey the right way.
That's what it is.
So I'm a big turkey. I'm a big turkey person. And then, so my mother-in-law is an incredible cook. Okay. Like when Ike and I got married, I just conceded. I was like, she wins. I'm not even going to compete.
Okay.
I mean, she's one really way good. To win your mother-in-law over. That's one way.
And so she makes this sweet potato casserole that is like dessert. I just look forward to it every year. Okay. And so that it's the turkey and it's the sweet potato casserole. So how about you, Rich?
Okay, yeah. So it's the pernil, which is in Puerto Rican cuisine, pork shoulder, which is like the main course for many Puerto Rican households. In addition to that, Rosie makes this amazing stuffing. Oh, she made this amazing stuffing. And some great potato salad. It's lots going on in our home. But it was great. It was great. And lots of great foods. How about you, Glenn? You don't like turkey. Is there a turkey in the house? Or are you offended by the turkey's presence?
I should rephrase. For many years, I did not like turkey because despite my best efforts to season it, marinate it, it no flavor. Until the year, and then we did this year as well, that I smoked the turkey on the Traeger. Now, this involves a lot of work.
Okay.
You had to brine it the night before in a 5-gallon drum of brining stuff. And but it does come out really, really flavorful. So that's good. Do we have another side? My favorite is the pies. I don't eat pie any other time of year. But Thanksgiving, I could have all the pie. Pumpkin pie is fine. I actually like a triple berry pie, which is
I've never had a triple berry pie. Mm-hmm. Okay,
it's very good.
Okay.
It's very good. All right, guys, before I'm getting into a food coma right now, just thinking about this. Before we get into today's conversation, we want to thank our partner, Belay. Belay has been serving pastors for more than 15 years, actually, and they're offering a free resource called Mission-Based Budgeting. It's simple, practical, gives you the tools to build a budget that actually works for your ministry. So text Barna 55123 to grab it. That's BARNA. Text that to 55123. I also want to thank one of our other partners, Brotherhood Mutual. Did you guys know I was in Fort Wayne, Indiana, where Brotherhood Mutual was? I was like in the headquarters of Brotherhood Mutual. And I just got to say, I was walking around and I go, Brotherhood Mutual in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And truly, I was there. So anyway, they're a leading national provider of ministry-focused insurance and services, headquartered in truly Fort Wayne, Indiana. Been there. Brotherhood Mutual has a heart for serving the church and keeping ministries thriving. So for more information, visit brotherhoodmutual.com. All right. In the spirit of Thanksgiving and giving, I want to talk about generosity. I don't know about you guys, but year-end giving is a big deal at Rock Harbor, and for a lot of West Coast churches and maybe churches elsewhere as well, 25 to 30% of our annual budget comes in the month of December. So it's a big month. Mm-hmm. And I'll be candid with you. There's some debate, lively and humble, among even our board and senior leadership teams about how much to talk about money in year-end giving. What do you say dollar amounts? Do you there's a lot of different things that kind of go into this. But here's some stats that I want to just share with you. Just over half of U.S. adults, that's 54% of U.S. adults who gave charitable donations in the previous year, said that they'd also received extraordinary generosity from others, which is really interesting. So 54% said the ones who gave said they'd also received. Compare that with 36% of non-givers, which I think means if you receive, you are more likely to give. And then another stat here, 60% of U.S. adults and 90% of practicing Christians reported donating to charitable organizations, including churches. This is from a 2021 study. So I'm curious, Sharon, maybe we'll start with you. What's your experience in terms of charitable giving? And maybe let's start with this. Do people in your church tend to give beyond the church or even give to the church? Yeah.
That's a great question. I don't know. I actually don't know how much of our people are giving beyond the church. I would imagine they are giving beyond the church. We have a pretty generous church. And then a pretty high percentage of our people give as well. And so it makes sense to me. I mean, that number, 90% of practicing Christians reported donating to charitable organizations is honestly seems like something to celebrate. That's really incredible.
Which is awesome, right? Yeah.
And it's something that we have witnessed in our church as well, as we have consistently experienced our people to be, when the topic of giving has arisen, we have not experienced a lot of resistance around it. People are really eager to give, to be honest.
Cool. Wow. Rich, when you talk about giving in your context in Queens, in New York City, do you find like you're having to persuade people? Or do you think, because the stat that we're reacting to here that Sharon was just saying is 90% of practicing Christians report donating to a charitable org, which could include a church. In general, do you find that people are like, we want to do that?
I think throughout the course of a given year, we are casting vision for different areas. And this is what we've seen, at least in Queens. But I think it's not just Queens. It's a lot of places. When there is compelling vision, when needs are being met, when there's high trust, people are going to give. And so initially, it took me a few years to feel comfortable around making big asks, to say, hey, and I got to a point where I think people are longing for a community to belong to. And because of that, they will do whatever it takes to, within the reason, to fund it. And it reminded me when during the pandemic, there's a guy named Kit. He goes to our church and he owns a number of kickboxing gyms throughout Queens. And I thought his gym was going to go out of business during the pandemic. And I remember walking and seeing him in the street and I said, Kit, man, how's it going? You closed down the gym. How's it going financially? And he said, we've made more money, with the gym being closed down monthly, because people want a gym to come back to, the community. And I just thought, people are giving more when people are experiencing life change, when people when their families are growing, when there's meaning to what's going on, they want to give. And I think as pastors, we have to recognize if we're offering quality ministry to people that's changing lives, it's actually a gift to them to invite them to continue to support that.
Yeah, I agree with you. The compelling vision is a big part of this. And Sharon, even your own experience. I'm curious. Years ago, I heard a preacher, I will not say his name. I think he's a great guy. And I admired him for saying this, but I don't want to be a distraction with his name. But years ago, I heard a preacher say, hey, percentage giving, or, some people call it the tithe, Pentecostal charismatics, maybe even Baptist circles, very literal to the tithe, the 10%. But other people, you just say, percentage giving is a way to free up your life from being, enslaved to money, and regular percentage giving that you don't benefit from, not an investment, not savings, is a way to free yourself from the bondage of money. And this preacher said, if you don't believe me, he's like, if you think I'm saying this because I want you to give to our church, then just give it away to somewhere else. Give to another organization and just test if this principle doesn't actually liberate you financially. And I've done it a couple times, and I'm curious, Sharon, do you think that, like, would you ever stand up to your church and encourage someone who's never given regularly before, not one-time donations, to say, hey, be a percentage giver, even if it's going outside the walls of this church?
Absolutely. Because we, as Rich mentioned, it's not just vision, it's trust. There are people who are coming into our doors who have been burned by other churches and their handling of money. And what has been important is we talked about this earlier in the season, how easy it is to sort of preach to the person that you're trying to appease. And I think it's important when it comes to making big asks that you're not constantly thinking of that person that you're trying to convince. You're thinking of the people who are ready, who they're ready to give. They just need to be discipled. But at the same time, those people do need to heal. Like they need to understand that this actually is a part of discipleship. This is good for their soul to be less tethered to materialism. And so those occasional gestures where you're saying, like, for instance, we did a series around generosity about a year ago now, just as a spiritual practice, and it was not attached to any ask. So we're talking about giving, but we're not asking for anything specifically. Yeah. I think that does help to build trust.
Yeah. I love that you name trust, and you're totally right. I mean, it's like, Rich, you've talked about this with politics. The time to talk about politics is not an election year, right? So similarly, the time to talk about money is not when you have a capital campaign. You will talk about, but you should have started it way before that. Rich, I was curious about this thought for you. Like, would you ever encourage someone who's never given a percentage with regularity to start with a different org, a different charity?
Yeah, I think someone who has never done it, especially someone who maybe is new to our congregation and might be a bit skeptical, absolutely. I'd say, hey, if you are not at a place right now where you can give with a good conscience, a clear conscience, to give joyfully, what's the organization you can give joyfully to? And so the tension I want to carry, though, hold on to, is that I might say that to folks that might be new to our congregation. For folks who are coming week in and week out, receiving the ministry and support, connected, being led, being shepherded, then for me, the invitation would be, in light of what you're receiving here, we want to be together, be contributing to the good work that's happening so it can continue and we can do more. Yes. But for some folks, the invitation is, yes, if there's no trust here, or you are wounded, or there's very little joy around this, then find a place. But then for the others, and I think this is where it's a discipleship issue now. And I've gotten to a point personally where I used to be very intimidated to talk about money. I'm no longer intimidated to talk about money for a few reasons. Number one, theologically, Jesus talks about money and mammon as, he contrasts it as you can't serve two masters. It's the only time that Jesus kind of pit two masters, one against the other, God and money. And for Jesus, money was not simply just like a neutral tool, but a rival God. And so if we're not getting, I feel the Spirit now. If we're not getting, if people are not getting formation and training around their desires, their hearts, their finances, we're missing something really significant in their formation journey. And the last thing I would just say, and I wonder what you guys think about this, talk about percentage giving. I've gotten to a point, because New Life is so diverse socioeconomically, for people to even start thinking about 10% is very overwhelming. And so this is what I've done pastorally. I've said to folks, if you can't give 10%, that feels like way too much. Where can you start? Where can you start? Can you start at 2? And then give 2% with all of your heart and ask God to help you to give more. But if we just do this 10% or bust, whatever like that, in the name of just obedience, and I think a lot of folks who have been in that space, I'm not sure are really connected to the people who are really struggling financially and wonder, if I really give this up, what are the consequences along those lines?
Yeah. I agree with both of you, and I think maybe a few years ago I would have said, "Oh yeah, absolutely." I would encourage them just to start, and I still do, and I have said that even at Rock Harbor. But what I've noticed in Orange County is everybody holds fundraisers from across the world, across the country, in Newport Beach. Whether it's a political thing or this charity or that, and so there is a donor mindset. And I want to disciple people beyond a donor mindset.
That's good.
And I think, so I'm okay with, on the trust side to say, hey, if you're not ready to give somewhere else, that's great. But I think the donor mindset is well set for people, who are not in a place where they're struggling economically. And so I'm trying to disciple them to a worshiper's mindset. And so we've used some language here at Rock Harbor where we go, hey, we believe worshipful giving is symbolic. So I've gone away from the 10% thing because people, there's obviously you can debate that biblically, Old Testament, whatever. So I just go, hey, there's a symbolic percent that you give, and your whole life is God, but it's a symbolic. It's sacrificial. It's meant to sort of hurt a little bit. And then thirdly, sometimes there's strategic giving, which that is more the vision thing, cast a compelling vision. We're raising this amount of money, give to that. And I don't have a problem with that with year-end giving to lean into the strategic side of it. But throughout the year, it's more symbolic and sacrificial. But then I also try to teach people giving is an act of worship and therefore is brought to the place of worship, which is a principle that you see in the New Testament. The early Christians they sell their possessions or sell land and they bring it to the feet of the apostles. They bring it as an act of worship to the place of worship. So I think there's something there. But man, I really love what you said about trust, Sharon. We do an annual report every year at Rock Harbor, and we disclose the money that was brought in, how it's spent by percentage breakdown, the vision for next year, the stories, the testimonies of the past year, the vision for the next year. And there's two things that I think are so important in building trust. It's transparency and accountability. Yeah. And one of the biggest reasons people don't trust churches is they go, I don't know how you're spending it. And then accountability, who's keeping track? So we explain our elder board, we explain our finance oversight, we explain ECFA, that we submit to ECFA guidelines, so all of those things can help. Okay, we've touched a little bit. Is there anything else either of you want to say about preaching on giving or preaching and generosity?
So kind of similar to what you were saying, but one distinction we've made, we just came out of our first capital campaign and we worked with Generis. And one distinction that they handed to us that I've gone to a lot is the distinction between giving and generosity. And so coming at this, not just thinking about, not everyone's 10%, but for some people, 10% is nothing. Mm-hmm. Like they're not changing their lifestyle. They're not having to trust God with their finances. And so for them, they can give 10% in a way that does not touch their heart in any meaningful way. And so just coming at this from a slightly different angle that we've also talked about this meaningful difference between giving and generosity, that so what generosity looks like is going to be very different from what people give. And, the widow's mite is a really great example of that she's giving less, but is more generous. And so that was really helpful for us in terms of discipling people around this.
I love that.
I love that. In terms of preaching or just liturgy for us, we've had a generosity prayer that we've been doing almost every week for the last almost decade. I wrote it with our worship pastor, and it's just in the middle of our service, a prayer that we pray together, much like we do a prayer of confession, things along those lines. And that's been so really powerful for us as a community to be mindful of the ways that we're called to steward our money, being mindful of the deception of riches, all of that. From a preaching perspective, I try almost every sermon or so to integrate some form of application around our finances. And so whether it's a 10-second kind of point of application, it's the regularity of it, of this is an important part of our lives. Therefore, if I talk about whatever, I'm trying to integrate it within the sermon. And then in terms of back to our Sunday services, we're always trying to, on a regular basis, connect what people's giving is doing in terms of the life that's happening in our church. And so we'll have plenty of, whether we're showing pictures or testimonies of this is where your giving is going. So it's more than just, you have to do it because this is what God says or this is what the Bible says, but it's more so, look at what your giving is doing for the life of our community. And I think those things have really helped to create a culture of generosity.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I just want to pause our conversation for a moment and tell you that our friends at Belay are making budget season easier with their free mission-based budgeting resource. Look, this isn't theory. It's actually a hands-on guide with step-by-step instruction, practical templates, and training videos that walk you through the process of building a budget that fuels your mission. For over 15 years, Belay has matched pastors with trusted remote assistants and financial experts. And this guide is just another way that they're making ministry leadership easier. And don't we all want that? So download it today by texting the word Barna to 55123. That's BARNA to the number 55123. We also want to thank Brotherhood Mutual. Brotherhood Mutual is a leading national provider of ministry-focused insurance and services. Headquartered in Fort Wayne, Indiana, Brotherhood Mutual has a heart for serving the church and keeping ministries thriving. So for more information on that, visit brotherhoodmutual.com. All right, let's get back to our conversation. Yeah, amen to both of those things. One of the things it's making me think about is recently I had this realization that talking about generosity is just one layer, but there's a financial discipleship that has to be bigger than just a capital campaign or a year-end giving thing or whatever. And I know some people run different kinds of courses on stewardship and all, and that's great. I was talking to a guy, he's an elder at a church in Silicon Valley, and he's like, people in our church weren't going to come to an 8-week course. So he's like, I created a 90-minute workshop, financial wisdom workshop, and we're talking about, because we're like, oh, maybe we should explore running that. But the larger point is, a comprehensive discipleship strategy about money rather than just like, oh, it's a generosity thing or it's a campaign thing and how do you preach about money? I mean, similar to saying we want a discipleship about marriage and we want a discipleship about relationships and friendships or sexuality. So I think I love what I want everyone to hear from you guys. What you're saying is, whether it's by preaching or whether it's by these courses or whether it's by nuancing language, from giving to generosity, from donor to worshiper, all that is, there's a larger banner here. And that is, how are we discipling people about their economic resources, including not getting in debt and avoiding the traps of whether it's gambling or whatever. I mean, these are big things in our world. I mean, sports betting, all that stuff. Okay, there's a 2021 study that said 51% of Gen Z and 61% of millennials said that they've donated money to charitable organizations, including churches and houses of worship. Are you seeing any generational shifts in talking about money, or even in thinking about money? I mean, I just was at a thing with a whole bunch of collegiate ministry people from around the country, 500 people who work on college campuses with a Christian ministry, and one of them was saying, Gen Z, like, we're pretty gloomy about whether we'll ever be able to buy a home and all this stuff. And so there's a tendency to kind of be a little bit defeated about money. Are you seeing any of that impact the attitudes toward giving, Rich or Sharon?
I think what I've seen in some of my conversations, I think there is some of that for sure. Some of the conversations I have with our young adults in our church is, to what degree is the money that we're receiving being used for matters of justice? How are we using the funds and resources as a community to put it in action? I think that's what I've been seeing in New York, at least where I'm at. A number of young adults this generation they just don't want generalities when it comes to just the resources of the community. If I'm giving here, is it going to, which is why we've connected with our New Life Community Development Corporation. We've served other, like in our Christmas offering, 15% of our Christmas offering goes outside of New Life to mission organizations. And so whether we're talking about campus ministry, whether we're talking about other churches to, church plants, whether we're talking about our Community Development Corporation, I think that energizes the next generation and this generation around finances and generosity more so than just, we're just doing another building project, which, by the way, we do that as well. We have to restore the building in different rooms, but they also want to know, again, how is this mobilizing ministry, especially for those who are on the margins of society?
Yeah, it's the same for us, that it has to be for a purpose that is larger than the church itself. And the more that we can be putting in front of them the ways that we are able to be generous, especially when there are, like, for example, with the recent government shutdown and the implications of that for SNAP, we already had a pre-existing relationship with a local food bank that we were able to then give an extra donation to that month in order to support them. And so to then come to our church and say, because you were already generous, we were able to mobilize very quickly to support this food bank. And that's the kind of thing that really encourages people to be generous. Just they want to know it's going to something that is meaningful to them. We've definitely found that. One other thing I wonder about with that age breakdown with the younger people, especially Gen Z giving less, I wonder if the other discipleship piece to that as well is with Gen Z specifically, sort of helping them to grow up a little bit. Like you're not the kid anymore. Like you're not waiting for the parents to take care of this. This belongs to you now. And so I wonder too, if there's just some messaging around reminding young people, you are also holding this thing. You are also carrying it forward, and not just around finances in terms of how we're giving them leadership and influence as well. But I just wonder if that is also a piece of it.
That's really interesting. A bit of a, Jean Twenge, the sociologist at University of San Diego, she wrote iGen years ago. Her newest book, Generations, came out a couple years ago. She talked about this as the slow life strategy, where you're slowing down the different stages. Or, you could call it arrested development, is what you could call it. Sharon, you just alluded to this campaign that you're in. I just wonder if you have some key takeaways, key learnings from the Capital campaign. Are you saving for something? Is it a multi-year campaign? Just give us a description and then a few key learnings. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, so we don't have, there's nothing specific that we are saving for, which is kind of unusual. Well, I thought it was unusual, but I found out it's actually not. But we just realized our space is not working anymore, and we not saving money is not a plan. And so we realized we need to start preparing actively for what God has next for us. And so that was what the purpose of the Capital campaign was. And as I said earlier, I was really amazed at how ready people were. One thing that we did that was really powerful is we had these vision events where we invited people to dream with us and to kind of speak into what, if we had a dedicated space, like what could we do with that? And them having ownership and agency. And that's something y'all have read the book, The Catalyst, right? Do you know that book? No. It's about persuasion, and or maybe it's something like The Art of Changing Someone's Mind. And it talks about the importance of agency. That's one factor of someone feeling like they have agency. And so, as a parent, for example, you can either tell your kid you're going to do this thing, or you can say you can either wear this coat or this coat, and that sense of agency, they're more likely to respond well. And the same is true as leaders, that if we just impose a vision on people, they're more likely to push back against it. But if you help them to feel agency in it, and that's what we did, they're more likely to respond well to it. And so giving them ownership in it was really helpful. And then one other thing that I would say that is really a pivot, it's adjacent to this whole conversation that I experienced, that I just want to say for anyone going into a Capital campaign, is that there's a reason why Jesus said, money is this one alternative God. This is a deep spiritual stronghold. And so if you are making big asks around this, if you're confronting this idol, you can expect spiritual warfare. And that was something that I was not prepared for. And it wasn't necessarily like something catastrophic that happened. I know you can all relate to this when you can just feel the weight of that spiritual realm that you're pushing back against. And so it was heavy in a way that was not, we're doing this big push and that's heavy, but there was another weight to it that I was not prepared for. And so I would also just say, if you are gearing up for this, to really don't sleep on prayer. Like this is really, really important to understand that there is like a deep spiritual stronghold here.
Sharon, really quickly here, and Glenn and I have a friend, Aaron Stern, who is in the middle of a capital campaign in Fort Collins, Colorado, buying a new building and all the rest. They already bought it, and now they're renovating it and doing all the rest. And I reached out to Aaron, Glenn, and I was I said, capital campaign, New Life. We did one capital campaign where we bought our building. And so we might need to do another one at some point. But I asked Aaron, what is his biggest takeaways in the middle of a very large capital campaign? And he said 3 questions. I want to quote Aaron Stern here. He said, is the vision clear? What are your fears? Do we have a good plan? And his short commentary on that was, people give to vision, not to need. That when you have a bigger why, people will give to that. What are your fears? He mentioned that he was afraid of people feeling manipulated or pressured. And once he was able to name those fears, instead of just trying to squeeze money out of people, that it was actually an opportunity to disciple people, that something shifted in him. And then, do we have a good plan? And, he hired a campaign consultant. Their wisdom was invaluable. And so I think those 3 questions are really helpful as well. Is the vision clear? What are your fears? Do you have a good plan?
So good. Great place to land. Listen, there's so much more to be said, and there's a delicateness that's required here, because people are coming from all kinds of different places. I mean, there's a big documentary out there that's trying to expose, the mismanagement of money among churches and ministries, and there certainly is mismanagement of money among churches. Pastors working their friends to speak into how their salaries should be tripled, and I mean, it's very gross. And I think, number one, if we live with integrity, and number two, if we can, embrace that accountability and then share that transparently, I think we can do this. So thank you for joining us on another episode of the Resilient Pastor Podcast. I'm sure we'll return to this subject, but if this conversation has encouraged you, please do share it with another pastor or leader. You can find more Barna research and resources at barna.com. Thanks again to our awesome partner, Belay. Many of us are in the middle of budget season, maybe, and so Belay's free mission-based budgeting is super timely. Gives you easy-to-use templates and videos to make building a budget straightforward and stress-free. Text the word Barna to 55123 to download now. That's BARNA to the number 55123. And also to one of our other partners, Brotherhood Mutual. Brotherhood Mutual's leading national provider of ministry-focused insurance and services. Headquartered in the one and only Fort Wayne, Indiana, Brotherhood Mutual has a heart for serving the church, keeping ministries thriving. For more information, visit brotherhoodmutual.com. Hey, everyone, thank you for watching, for listening. It really means a lot to us. Love hearing the stories from people all around the country, sometimes different parts of the world. So we'll see you next time on the Resilient Pastor Podcast.